Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Off the Sidelines. My name is Matthew Liam Bruni.
And my name is Benedict.
We hope everybody is doing well and continues to do well throughout this pandemic and try to keep as busy as possible. Yeah, Ben, have you been up to anything lately since we last spoke?
Not really. As you can see, though, I'm currently in Florida here at Disney World, enjoying the nice sun down here. Other than that, not too much. What about you?
That's nice. Same, not really much either. Just like I said, trying to keep busy and yeah, just it's just been lazier than usual. But yeah, okay, so we're gonna get started with our topics. Our first topic today is the NBA returning. Throughout our past couple episodes, we've been talking about sports coming back, like NHL and MLB as well. But today we're going to be talking about the NBA's return. There have been a couple of considerations, including Disney World and maybe as some other possible locations like Vegas, for example, that have been in the discussion. Uh, Ben, what do you think? Do you think do you have any other locations and idea for the NBA?
I don't really know if there's any other locations that would make more sense than one of those two. I do like both of those look possibilities, Disney World and Vegas, because they're just full of hotels, empty hotels at the moment that can be used to or to house players and staff, and maybe players' families as well, which a lot of players want to have their families near them. So I think that would be pretty important. So there's a lot of hotels and things like convention centers where you can set up sort of makeshift arenas. So I think it's more than likely to be one of those two.
Yeah, I think I definitely do think like Vegas would be one of the better options for the NBA to go. But I mean, like also I mentioned Disney World, and I'm pretty sure Disney World has a couple of arenas set up if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, I believe
So that
so.
yeah, so that would be a good consideration for them. But I mean, I think you have to consider like they have to fly in everybody from wherever all these players are, just like every league. They probably some players are across like probably in Europe or something right now, maybe not in Europe, in America, sorry. So they might have to kind of break the travel restrictions just to start playing depending where they're coming from. But I mean, Vegas would probably be like you're right. You mentioned a lot of hotels are vacant right now, and probably that would be the best decision for them, I believe.
Yeah, something we sort of mentioned this last week with the NHL as well, but a lot of players aren't in America at the moment, whether they're in Canada or overseas or South America or so they're wherever they are in Europe. So they have to travel across the border, and the borders are closed at the moment. And I think it'd be sort of public relations nightmare for the NBA if their players are getting to cross the borders when others aren't allowed to. So my guess is might have to wait till the borders are open for everyone else too, sort of in the name of fairness, I guess. And also, people are saying the NBA or other leagues will need to test all their players to make sure they're not testing positive for COVID-19. And if the NBA buys thousands of these tests, while there are people both in America and Canada and elsewhere who can't afford these tests or don't have access to these tests, I think that would be a bad look on the NBA and whatever other leagues decide to start up again. So I imagine that it's still going to be quite a while before we see games actually being played, until some of the restrictions are sort of lifted, I guess. But in terms of like actual locations to play games, I think Disney World or Vegas make the most sense for sure.
Yeah, I mean, like, because of course, COVID's getting worse in the U.S. every day. So, I mean, we don't even know if any of these locations or possibly other cities would be fit to host these games. I mean, you have to, like you said, you would probably have to self-isolate some players as well. Like they would have to be self-isolate in their hotels.
At least a couple of weeks before games get played too,
Yeah, and
just to make
then
sure.
yeah, and who knows if they can bring their family along, and like that you have to take that into consideration too.
Yeah, I know a lot of players are saying they one of the requirements for them to play again is going to be the ability to have their family there too.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
I don't know how easy that's going to be to set up to get hundreds of players and all their families into one area. That kind of defeats the purpose of social distancing, I guess. So I don't know. I kind of don't think that's going to happen, and if it does, it's not going to be for a long time. So I don't think they're going to be able to compromise there. I think it's going to either be the players playing games without their families, or the families will come, but it'll be 4 months from now or something when the restrictions are starting to get lifted.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, we'll have to find out in the
Yeah,
next in the upcoming months.
yeah.
Okay, so now, oh, do you want to mention? Did you want to mention something about Disney World that you tweeted out a couple of days ago?
Yeah, so the other day I put a tweet out, kind of as a joke. I didn't really expect it to get any traction, but I said like there needs to be two requirements for the NBA to come up again, and it's that they need to fill the stands with empty mascot costumes, like Mickey Mouse or whatever,
Yeah,
and all the players need to wear those like little ears that they give out to people. So and that's got so far almost 1,000 likes, so I was not expecting at all. That was kind of crazy. But yeah, that'd be pretty cool. I think. I mean, especially the one with the mascots in the stands. I think that'd be pretty cool. I don't know if they'll do it. I don't think they will.
that would be very cool actually if they did that,
But I can
especially at
imagine
Disney
just like,
World.
yeah, imagine like, or at least have like, how some leagues have mentioned having like artificial fans. Like, no Sky Sports for the Premier League in England has mentioned like CGI'd fans.
Yeah.
Sort of like almost like casting them into the crowd. So that'd be kind of cool. I don't know if I personally like that idea, but I don't know. It'd be interesting to see if they run with it.
Yeah, I mean, with all the technology we have now, like you can really do anything with the crowd. Like, I mean, besides, of course, using the cardboards, like the CGI crowd, as you mentioned. But yeah, that would
Yeah.
definitely be cool.
Some sports fans have, or some sports teams don't have any fans. They pump noise out of the crowd.
Yeah,
NBA teams have been sort of made fun of sometimes for doing that.
yeah. Oh, they can even use like audio probably for
Yeah,
for cheering if they wanted to, like over the speakers or something
they
like
have to do
that.
something. They have to do something, at least music or something, because if it's just silent, that's going to be not very entertaining to watch on TV.
Yeah,
Or,
because
or and the players might be sort of out of their rhythm, not having anyone making any noise.
yeah, I would assume the players would get bored without like any music playing in the back, especially in the NBA when they play the defense music and all that.
Yeah, in the NBA, the fans are so close to the court as well,
Yeah.
so it's like physically close to the court. So it'd be sort of different to go from playing in front of 20,000 people at Scotiabank Arena to playing in front of empty chairs at some convention center.
Hmm.
So they have to do something, I think, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so now we're gonna move on to some NFL news. Uh, just this past weekend, the NFL said they were gonna plan on releasing their schedule, and they also mentioned they plan to start on time, according to a league spokesperson. And of course, as I mentioned, the schedule could be out as early as this week, possibly near the end of the week. What do you think about this idea or this plan from the NFL?
I think it's a bit ambitious. I think I know this is usually around the time of year when they release the schedule, so that doesn't really surprise me, I guess. I would have thought with the whole way this virus is sort of panning out, I thought maybe they might wait a couple weeks or at least a month maybe and sort of get a bit more information before actually making a schedule. I know we've heard that they have a contingency plan apparently plan just in case it can't start on time. Like reportedly no bye weeks if they don't start on time, and this is expected that there won't be any international games in London or I think they were supposed to play in Mexico City next season.
Yeah,
It
one game.
yeah, it sounds like that's not going to happen anymore because of the whole travel restrictions and no fans. It wouldn't make sense to go play in Mexico City or London. Um, so I'm a bit surprised that the NFL is sort of going ahead with the season on time, or they want to. But I guess it's still a long time away, so hopefully they'll be able to do it. But I can't imagine they're actually just going to start on time. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that I definitely don't like. For my opinion, I don't like depending on how bad COVID gets. Like, I don't think that they're going to be able to start on time in come September. like you mentioned, I do think they're very ambitious. Like they probably they really think that's going to start on time, but like we said, we don't even know for sure if they will.
Yeah.
Uh, Players aren't even in facilities right now. Uh, of course, they're still self-isolated as they should all be right now, but I think they need to like I don't know for sure if I heard this, but would they considering anything about the off-season training? Like have they, not that I know of any like
I haven't heard
cancellations of,
anything. No.
yeah, yeah, like they definitely have to get their training in before playing. And
Yeah.
if this goes late into like July, August, and they still haven't started training, then I don't think they can start in September.
Especially they need some kind of preseason as well, of course.
Yeah,
Like
actually,
they're gonna need like, at least like 2 or 3 preseason games. So, and they usually have like a month or two long training camp before that. So my guess is we're not going to see the NFL until much later than the expected time, and it'll go later into next year. Like maybe they'll change it to a summer thing and just start in like January and play until May or June or something. Maybe even at least just for this one year.
yeah, those also they also mentioned I think that they weren't going to have any bye weeks if
Yeah,
they didn't start on time, and then the Super Bowl and everything would be pushed. Like, of course, the whole season would be pushed back. Um, but yeah, we don't know for sure if this is going to go how much longer this is going to go for. So I think that they're definitely kind of taking a risk right now.
yeah. I don't think it makes sense to release the schedule if there's a chance that it's not going to happen. I think they should
Yeah,
have waited. Maybe have one ready, but don't actually like make it public yet. Because then if the league ends up being suspended for longer, then they're gonna look kind of stupid when the games don't get played for another 2 months after the original start date.
yeah, definitely, and it makes sense for them not to have any international games too, because
Yeah,
of course you mentioned the travel restrictions, so it's
that's
definitely the
kind of
right.
unfortunate. But it's kind of unfortunate they don't have any international games, like especially the ones in London are always sort of cool to watch.
Yeah,
But obviously, it makes sense to not do them this year.
yeah, for sure. Okay, so moving on in the same topic in NFL news, Jameis Winston, a former Tampa Bay Buccaneers quarterback, has signed with the
Yeah,
Saints. Uh, of course, the Buccaneers replaced him with Tom Brady just probably close to a month ago now. I'm pretty sure.
something like
What
that.
did Yeah? What did you think of Winston signing with the Saints?
It's an interesting one. I guess he's not going to be the starter for the Saints. I don't think, obviously, with Drew Brees. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not really sure what they're thinking there. He didn't have a great season last year, but I guess he needs a shot to sort of try and reinvent his career. And I guess Saints are willing to take a chance on him, and makes sense, I guess. And kind of like another player who's just been signed by a new team is Andy Dalton, of course, who's just gone to the Dallas Cowboys after being released by the Cincinnati Bengals. So what do you make from that signing?
Well, I find it interesting that they signed Andy Dalton, or I should say Jerry Jones has signed Andy Dalton before signing Dak. It's
Yeah,
pretty interesting that he did that.
that was
I
not
mean,
a well received online.
yeah, it's definitely interesting for them. But I'm if I'm not wrong, like Andy Dalton hasn't even won like a playoff game in his career with Cincinnati. But I mean, that's pretty understandable for a
Yeah.
franchise like Cincinnati. But I mean, I don't think it would. I don't think it's going to work. But what about you? What do you think?
Well, I think they need to sign Dak first, obviously. Um, and I don't hate the signing. I think again, same with Jameis. Like he's going to be a decent backup. He could probably start on some teams. So in that sense, I don't mind him being a backup player. But I just don't know if it makes sense to sign someone like Andy Dalton or Jameis Winston when you could sign maybe a younger player. For example, using the Saints, for example, like Drew Brees probably doesn't have that many years left in him. He's another one of the sort of aging quarterbacks in the NFL. So I think it may make sense to sign a younger quarterback than Andy Dalton, and then sort of have him learn under Brees for a couple of years before becoming the starter in a few seasons. And I don't see a 1 year contract with for Andy Dalton with the Cowboys making much sense either if they plan on re-signing Dak, which I assume they do. So yeah, a couple of interesting. signings, but I don't hate them, but I don't particularly like them either.
Yeah, well, there's also Cam Newton still in the market,
Yeah,
so it's pretty interesting to see where he's going to go. I mean, he's 30, which is, I mean, a pretty good age for someone to sign him right now. As you mentioned, the aged quarterbacks like you said, Drew Brees probably doesn't have a lot of years left. And yeah, I mean, I don't know if Winston would be in that situation would
yeah,
fit the Saints. I mean, I don't even know if he would be a starter if he can fix his interceptions. I mean, he'd be good.
yeah. I don't know. I think also the Patriots need a quarterback. I don't think they should have gone with Andy Dalton or Jameis Winston, but they might go with Cam Newton still. We might also wait and see for that one. I don't think they were. I don't think they were even considering Winston or Dalton. But yeah, the Patriots also need a quarterback, and a couple other teams do as well, of course. So yeah, I'm not sure if these players made the right choice as well. Like a lot of people are saying the Saints or the Cowboys signed the wrong player, but I also think the players signed with the wrong team in some cases. Um, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see what happens. I guess.
Yeah, I mean, even besides the Patriots for Cam Newton, I think like someone like the Chargers would be a good fit too. I
Yeah,
mean, they just got Justin Herbert in the draft. I mean, he's too young to probably start right now, but
or
I think that
Miami.
or my yeah for Miami too. But I think that like even the Chargers and as you said the Dolphins would probably be good fits for
Yeah,
Cam Newton too. Besides the Patriots.
yeah. Someone to sort of help these younger guys. Like I don't think we're going to see Tua Tagovailoa this year in the NFL. I think he's probably going to sit out a year and sort of, or at least most of the year, and sort of learn from whoever the starter is going to be down there. So I think having Cam Newton, I think would make a lot of sense. He's one of the better quarterbacks over the last 5 6 years. He's had some injury problems, but that doesn't really matter, I guess, if he's able to stay healthy this year. Um, yeah, I don't know, I see the Chargers as well, or one of these other teams with sort of young quarterbacks who could maybe sort of learn. I was thinking maybe someone like LA makes sense, as you said, or I imagine they'll probably end up on the Patriots though, because I think they're the ones who need a top starting quarterback more than any of those other teams.
Yeah, unless if they're going for Trevor Lawrence in the draft, like maybe they're
Yeah,
doing like a tank for Trevor or something like that.
maybe.
Yeah,
Probably the Bengals or someone will probably get him though.
the Bengals, yeah, maybe. I mean,
And it depends how Joe Burrow does. I imagine we're going to see this, or the Browns, or one of the Browns or the Redskins, one of these teams that always ends up with one of the first picks. I imagine one of them will probably end up with with him in a year's time.
yeah, it would definitely be interesting to see the Patriots like just in the top 10 in general. Like,
Yeah, I don't think we will. I think they're going to still find a way to have a winning season.
yeah,
I don't think they're going to win the division this year. I think the Buffalo Bills might take that, but it'll be an interesting year for the Patriots to see how they sort of cope for life after Tom Brady.
yeah, well, it's definitely going to be interesting, especially with a coach like Bill Belichick. Like,
Yeah,
are they rebuilding? Are they not? Like, it's kind of interesting right now.
they're kind of in a transition phase right now. I
Hmm.
think it depends on if Bill Belichick wants to stay as well. If he has 1 year, has a bad season, and decides he wants to leave, then you're gonna have to start all over again with whoever the new head coach might be.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So up next, we got some soccer news. Moving on past the NFL. It was announced last week that Ligue 1 in France, as well as the Dutch league, the Eredivisie, I think I pronounced that right, both sort of canceled their seasons. Um, some different outcomes. The Dutch league decided not to give the title to Ajax, who are currently front runners, but France did give the title to PSG. What do you sort of make of that sort of the decision to? Well, I guess we'll start with PSG. What do you make of the decision to sort of give them the title, even though the season hasn't been finished?
Well, I think first of all, PSG it was going to win the title anyways. I mean
Yeah,
that they're always dominant in that league anyways. But I think probably, I mean, I think it's right for. I think it was probably right for them to give the title. probably because I mean, like I said, they've been the dominant team that like no one can deny that PSG is always dominant in their league. But I mean, when I look at other leagues like the Premier League, MLS, I mean MLS just started, so we can't really declare anybody as a winner right now. But even the CPL too, for example. But
Yeah,
if you look at someone if you look at like the Premier League or La Liga or any other European league, something like that, like it's gonna be interesting. It would be interesting to see how they like if they crown a champion right now or not. Even like even with the Champions League too, because I think there's even qualifications for like getting into Champions League. Like you have to win your league. I'm pretty sure like top 3 or 4 if I'm not wrong.
yeah,
But yeah, I think that it depends on where each each season is around the world. Like I said, MLS just started, CPL just started, Premier League, La Liga, and other leagues are just finishing. So I think that they should probably crown a champion. But what do you think about it?
yeah. You mentioned like PSG were going to win the league, so I'm not really surprised that they've been given the title. I think it would be less fair in other leagues. Like there's the Dutch league. Like Ajax was tied at the top with Alkmaar. They're winning on on goal difference. Sorry. So I don't think it would have been fair to give them the title. But in other leagues, the Premier League, I wouldn't be surprised if the season does get cancelled that Liverpool get the title because they're 30 points up, I think, on the next team, and them winning the league is a foregone conclusion. So I wouldn't be surprised if that happens if the league doesn't finish. I think the Premier League does want to finish the season because also relegation, of course. That's a pretty big factor, and some teams are tied in the relegation zone. So I don't think the Premier League can cancel the season, and I think they're going to try everything not to. But it'll be interesting to see what leagues like MLS and the Canadian Premier League do because MLS was, I think, only 2 games into the season for most teams. CPL was like about to start a few weeks after this whole virus started to sort of blow up over here. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. So I don't mind the decisions from Ligue 1 and the Dutch league, but I'd be very surprised if the Premier League follows suit. I think the Premier League will try to find a way to finish the season.
Yeah, I mean, like you mentioned, like as we both mentioned, the some leagues just starting like MLS and CPL. I mean, if if COVID goes for longer, it would be interesting to see how they start their games up. It's going to be without fans, of course, first of
Yeah,
all, but it's going to be interesting to see if they do like how they work out maybe a neutral site or like you know, of course, you can't have big crowds right now, so you can't have a crowd. You can't have the people fans in the stands, I should say. But I think it would be interesting to see how they incorporate like maybe a neutral site league, like somewhere like maybe Vegas or something, for
yeah.
example.
That's also why the Canadian Premier League is so interesting because there's only 8 teams. You can get away with cutting the schedule in half. I think we mentioned this before on this Off the Sidelines, one of these episodes, where right now their plan is to have 28 games, 2 games at home and 2 games away against each of the other 7 teams. Uh, so you could, I think, pretty easily cut that in half and just play 14 games, 2 against every team, 1 home, 1 away. So in that sense, the Canadian Premier League not starting yet is actually a benefit to them. But at the same time, because Canada's such a big country and there's going to be so much traveling involved, for example, going from Halifax on one coast to Pacific FC on Vancouver Island, that's a pretty giant road trip. And I think the travel is kind of the thing that's stopping the Canadian Premier League from starting up at the moment, or will continue to stop the Premier League from starting up. I think scheduling won't be the problem for them, but it'll be the traveling.
Yeah, for sure, traveling will be tough, especially in the MLS when you have three
Yeah,
Canadian countries like traveling that have to travel to the US, depending on where they set up a possible neutral site or something like that. It'd be interesting to see how they work that out.
yeah,
Okay, so we've been doing recently in our past couple episodes, we've been doing a segment where we give our greatest team from a certain league to win a championship. Like we talked about the best team to win the World Series in the past decade. We've talked about the best team that's won the Stanley Cup. Today, we're going to be focused on the greatest NFL team from the past decade to win the Super Bowl. Ben, do you want to go first with your pick?
Sure. I think there's been so many amazing New England Patriots teams over the last decade. I think they won 3 Super Bowls in 5 years, and they won the AFC East every single season. But I've still decided to go with the 2013 Seattle Seahawks instead, because I think both offensively and defensively, one of the best teams of all time in 2013. They had a 12-4 record. Sorry, 13-3 record. Sorry, and the franchise's first and only Super Bowl. Uh, Offensively, Russell Wilson and Marshawn Lynch, both incredible players, both are selected to the Pro Bowl. And defensively, they had the Legion of Boom, they called it, which is one of the best defensive groups of all time, led by players like Richard Sherman and Cam Chancellor. They led the league in points allowed, yards allowed, and takeaways, which was the first team to do that since 1985. Chicago Bears did it in '85. And obviously, they won the Super Bowl. They beat Peyton Manning and the Denver Broncos, who are no weak opposition, shall we say. So I think the 2013 Seattle Seahawks are one of the best teams, if not the best team, over the last decade. What about you? Who have you chosen?
Okay, so I jumped on the. I said a Patriots team. I mean, I chose the 2016 Patriots. In that season, they had a 14-2 record going into the playoffs. In their playoff run, or should I say their run to the Super Bowl, they first beat the Houston Texans 34-16 in the divisional round, following that up with a 36-17 win in the AFC Championship game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. In that Super Bowl, I don't think anyone expected the crazy result that we got from that game. I mean, being up with the Falcons being up 28-3, they thought they were going to win their first Super Bowl title in franchise history. But then, of course, Brady and the Patriots came to steal it from them, outscoring the Falcons 31-0 and winning in overtime. Brady won his 5th Super Bowl ring. Of course, he has 6 in total currently, which did originally tie for the most in NFL history. And of course, since that time, he's broken that record, winning his 6th ring in the 2019 Super Bowl against the Rams. That season, the Patriots did have a stacked roster with players like James White at running back, Julian Edelman at wide receiver, and also Malcolm Butler at cornerback. And in regards to their team ranks from the season, they were 3rd in points per game, 4th in passing yards, and also in regards to defense, they were 1st in points given up.
Yeah, the Patriots, as I mentioned, over the last decade, were one of the best one of the best NFL teams we've ever seen. Last 20 years, even. Like 2007, I think they were 16-0. So I think like the Patriots are. It's hard not to pick them, I guess. Like Bill Belichick and Tom Brady, Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski now in Tampa Bay, as we've talked about. I think it's hard not to pick the Patriots for one of these kind of things. And Super Bowl 49, of course, the Patriots and Seahawks both met each other. The Patriots won that game. And what was also a very, very good Super Bowl in which Russell Wilson probably wishes he'd handed the ball off instead of throwing it, as has become a meme over the last few years. So having a chance to win the Super Bowl, but didn't. And obviously the rest is history. And the Patriots, until very recently, were still one of the best franchises in NFL history.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there was also the Giants, which thought they were in the Patriots dynasty, winning the Super Bowl against with the Giants winning the Super Bowl against the Patriots. I think it was 2014, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, but yeah, there's definitely a lot. Even with the pick you mentioned, like just how dominant the Seahawks were in that game, winning by, I think it was 43-8 was the final score, which is
Yeah.
a crazy, just a crazy blowout against the Denver Broncos and Peyton Manning.
Yeah,
Um,
in the last decade, we've seen like the two Manning brothers, Peyton and Eli, and Tom Brady. Those three just dominated the league for years. I don't
yeah,
think we're ever going to see a decade where that was dominated by 3 or 4 quarterbacks like this one was.
yeah. What do you going into? I mean, now we're in 2020, so which dynasty do you think we'll have if there is one? Which one do you think will be in this decade? Will form, I should
Um,
say.
I think there's a lot of good young players who have the opportunity to start dynasties, and I imagine we might see one break out, and I think that's going to be the Kansas City Chiefs. They just won the Super Bowl in 2020, so they've already won one of the 10 Super Bowls this decade already. Um, and I think Patrick Mahomes is going to be an elite quarterback for at least a decade if he stays healthy and everything goes well. If he signs his contract, he's apparently going to sign soon. I'll keep him in Kansas City for a long time. So I think if that sort of team stays together, I think we might see a Kansas City Chiefs dynasty.
Yeah, I agree. I think Kansas City is definitely a consideration for a great dynasty, especially since they just won the Super Bowl against the 49ers. I think maybe also Baltimore would
Yeah,
be another consideration. I mean, I'm looking at teams that have like younger quarterbacks and great coaches, of course. And as we mentioned, the Chiefs have Andy Reid. And I think maybe even from the NFC, like someone like the 49ers,
yeah,
as I mentioned, that played the Chiefs in the Super Bowl this past season, maybe might be a great pick too. But yeah, there's definitely. I think the league is definitely more open now with the Patriots dynasty kind of simmering down. I guess I would say.
yeah. And some of these other older quarterbacks starting to retire as well. Like we've seen over the last couple of years, Peyton Manning retire. Tom Brady's sort of seems to be on sort of a decline from his last decade. Whenever you say Tom Brady's declining, he always wins the Super Bowl the next year. So you can never really be too sure with him. But also people like Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, etc. There's a few names who are going to start retiring over the next decade. So I mean, who knows who the next in 5 years from now you could see a team win five in a row, but some quarterback hasn't been drafted yet. So we have no idea who could be a dynasty. But I think early indications are that it'll be the Chiefs, or you said the Ravens are a good suggestion. They don't really have any major holes in their team right now. So I think they could even be a challenger for the 2021 Super Bowl, and with Lamar Jackson. So yeah, I think one of those two teams might sort of start to break away from the rest of the pack.
Yeah, time's definitely almost up for most, or basically all the older quarterbacks. Like
Yeah,
we mentioned, Tom Brady, Drew Brees, and a couple others too,
Aaron Rodgers.
and Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, definitely. Okay, so now we're gonna just briefly talk about some throwback games we've been watching lately. Ben, would you like to mention any you've been watching?
This is kind of becoming one of my favorite segments on the show. It's kind of cool to sort of look back and watch all these old games. And so this week I've been watching a lot of soccer. I've been watching a lot of the 2019 Women's World Cup over the last couple of days for some reason, even though I watched Canada lose to Sweden. That was pretty disappointing. And then followed that up the next day with England losing to the United States. So I'm not sure why TSN is trying to punish me at the moment. Um, but yes, I watched those two. And I also watched the other semi-final from that tournament, which was Netherlands versus Sweden, which is one of the best matches of that tournament. And some hockey as well, like the Toronto Maple Leafs Stanley Cup games from the 1960s. I've been watching on the Leafs TV channel. I can't remember exactly what it's called. As well as the 1993 Stanley Cup Finals been shown a lot recently. The Canadiens versus the Kings. Just seeing Wayne Gretzky, obviously the greatest player of all time, and also the last Canadian team to win a Stanley Cup in the Montreal Canadiens. So that's been pretty good. And then today, this morning, I was watching some 1999 FA Cup games, as well as the 2017 FA Cup final, which Arsenal won. So that was always a nice memory to relive. What about you? What have you been up to?
Yeah, I've been watching more. As I mentioned last week, I've been watching more NHL playoff games. For those which came from the Vancouver Canucks and Chicago Blackhawks series, in which Vancouver won, of course, and I think it was 7 games in 2011. And also some games from the Winnipeg Jets and Nashville Predators series in the 2018 playoffs. And actually also going back to 1989 when the Flames and Canadiens versus each other in the Stanley Cup final was also something that I was watching too. Um, I've also, other than the NHL, I've also been watching some NBA Finals games. For example, I've seen Game 7 from the 2016 playoffs when the Cavaliers took down the Warriors in Game 7, and of course I can't go without watching
Yeah.
the Raptors title clinching game from last season. Of course, that was Game 6 to be exact. But yeah, that's what I've been watching. Uh, I was gonna also say this was just something that came up today. Something that I might consider watching. I don't know if you might as well. Is the KBO, which is the Korean baseball organization, which is apparently starting to air some games this week on American TV. So that might be something that I'll look forward to.
Yeah, if we can get the channels here in Canada, then I'll probably tune in. Like I said, I'm never gonna take live sports for granted ever again. I guess as soon as sports stop again, I'm buying a DAZN subscription, a lifetime subscription to DAZN, and One Soccer and all these other streaming services. Like I can't wait for live sports, so I'll probably tune into some of that if A, we have the channels, and B, if it's time friendly. Like I'm not gonna wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning to watch Korean baseball, but
Yeah.
if it's on in the evening sometime or a reasonable time, then I'll probably tune into it too.
Yeah, definitely. If they replay them during the evening, like you said, I'm not probably not going to stay up at 3 a.m. either to watch Korean baseball. I mean, I don't know much about it, but
Just some good players come out of that league, and good American or Canadian MLB players have gone to the Korean league. But it's not going to be MLB standard, I don't think. But it said live sports or live sports at this time.
yeah, even NASCAR and UFC are coming back soon, I think. So
Isn't NASCAR doing like 5 races in 8 days or something stupid?
something like that. Yeah,
Like,
they're trying to fit all the like so many races in like under a week or 10 days or something like that.
I've been watching some of their like using like iRacing or whatever it's called, like the virtual NASCAR.
Yeah,
I'm watching some of that. That's been interesting, full of a lot of controversy, but it's been kind of interesting to watch. I know we had a bit of racism scandal at one point in the NASCAR racing, the virtual racing. Then there was one guy who rage quit out of a game and got fired by his sponsors or something. Like on Twitter, they tweeted him and said like, "You no longer race for us," kind of thing. Like it's been a kind of a wild thing for a video game tournament, but I don't know. I'm looking forward to live sports, so NASCAR is part of that. And I'm not a UFC guy, but if it's live sports, I'll watch it at this time.
yeah, for sure. I mean, we're just waiting for like MLB, NHL, NBA, all soccer to come back at this point too.
And rugby apparently is getting closer to coming back too. So
Yeah.
maybe we'll talk about that next week. We'll have to see.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's all the time we have for this week. Thank you guys for watching. My name is Benedict Rhodes.
I'm Benedict Rhodes.
Sorry, my name is Matthew Lee Bruni.
I'm
Sorry, a
back.
little error. My name's
Yeah,
Matthew Lee Bruni.
yeah. That's Matthew. That's Benedict Rhodes, and I'm Matthew Lee Bruni. And thanks for watching this
Sorry,
episode of Off
little
the
error.
Sideline.
Bye, guys.
Thanks, guys.